We give them polio vaccines and then we kill them. Like, this is a week out from aid trucks being allowed to enter, only to then fucking turn around and lighting the school on fire. That is so crazy.
Stop.
All right, we're gonna do the channel 4. We're gonna do the channel 4 video now on the Israeli war crimes and what Benjamin Netanyahu is being prosecuted for. Oh my God, we have a lot to talk about. Holy moly! Wasn't there already a warrant issued for Bibi? No. So there was an application. There was an application for the arrest warrants, but they did not. There's a difference between an application for the arrest warrants and those applications actually being judged by 3 different judges and then being found to be reasonable. The applications are now official, which means that, you know, we're one step closer to Benjamin Netanyahu being considered a war criminal, given that a lot of these war criminals, especially if they are directly in the realm of influence of the United States of America, are never really going to get prosecuted. That's it. He's just a war criminal, just like Putin is. Putin's never going to get prosecuted either until, you know, I guess somehow magically Russia falls or something, you know? We're going to talk about the White House's response as well in a second. Actually, you know what? Let's finish this. Let's finish the Channel 4 thing, and then we'll talk about...
Starving children, dangerously malnourished. Amputations performed without anesthetic.
Yeah, remember, it's important to also remember why Benjamin Netanyahu is considered a war criminal now, and so is Yoav Gallant, and so is many members of the Israeli occupying forces, and many people who have offered them credence, offered them protection, offered them guidance. This includes American leadership as well. Just recognize that, like, this is the reason. It's not for no reason, and it's certainly not because of anti-Semitism, okay?
Families killed. Israel's war in Gaza has been filled with horrors that are hard to fathom. Israel accused of deliberately blocking aid, even as a humanitarian crisis deepens. Today, it led to arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, being issued by the International Criminal Court for their alleged role in the suffering. Judges ruled there are reasonable grounds to believe they are responsible for the war crime of starvation, as well as the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution and other inhumane acts, and of intentionally directing an attack against the civilian population. The court also issued a warrant for Hamas's military commander, Mohammed Deif, though he's believed to be dead, accusing him of crimes against humanity as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Israel on October the 7th.
Another thing that we were talking about, by the way, I like that Vorlo just said, remember the standing ovation in Congress when he was speaking? Yeah, I do remember. And also so does the world and so does Channel 4. Because they're literally presenting it. Remember these fucking demons, okay? Remember what these fucking demons did. Never let them forget it, okay? I certainly have not forgotten. But also, something that you guys... let's continue.
It's the arrest warrants for Israeli politicians that are unprecedented. Netanyahu becoming the first leader of a Western-style democracy to be accused by the court. Here he was in Washington just a few months ago, given a rapturous welcome by Congress.
America and Israel must stand together.
Look at that. Look at these fucking animals, dude. Oh, gross. Barbaric monsters. But hey, they wear suits, so, you know, they're elite. They're above it all. Demons, all of them. Yeah, this is clapping for Adolf, dude. Straight up. Clapping for Adolf. Look at that fucking ogre. He put a suit on for once. Disgusting. If there was any sort of real justice in this world, every single person that gave a standing ovation and gave real cover to Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, would also stand trial. Of course, that will not happen, but that doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change the horror. It doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change their involvement.
Today, he dismissed the charges as absurd, biased, and anti-Semitic. But public statements made by the men themselves form part of the evidence against them. At the start of the war, Gallant said food, water, and fuel would all be blocked from entering Gaza.
Has the ADL called the ICC anti-Semitic yet? The Apartheid Defense League? I'm certain that they have already. This is their opportunity to shine, you know?
In the face of international pressure, aid has been allowed in, but nowhere near enough. Today in Gaza, displaced Palestinians welcomed the charges, though many fear they'll have little impact.
We hope that the decision issued today will serve the Palestinians and serve us here in particular in Gaza, and that it will not be like other decisions that have passed unnoticed.
Will Netanyahu and Gallant ever face the judges at the ICC? Everyone knows it's unlikely. The court has no police force to arrest anyone. But trips like this to London before the war will now be much more difficult. Many of Israel's allies are members of the ICC and are now obliged to detain the men if they enter the country, though America is not and has rejected the warrants. In Israel, where focus remains on the hostages still held captive by Hamas, even staunch critics of Netanyahu spoke out in his defense.
Oh, staunch critics of Netanyahu. Get the fuck out of here. Then you're not. You're not a staunch critic of Netanyahu. You're just not. If you're defending him in this moment, then you're not a critic of Netanyahu at all. You love him. You just, much like our liberals, want to have the fucking moral high ground. He does all of your wishes, but then you still get the chirp. Speaking of the ADL, 49 likes on this. Damn. The International Criminal Court's arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant is a shameful and wholly political action on the part of the court. The ICC's rationale is rooted in the unsubstantiated and specious claims which run counter to the realities of the ground in Gaza and send a disturbing message equating Israel's war of self-defense with Hamas's terrorism. The court has ignored its own principles and practices in service of a political ruling. The court's moral lapse only serves to further embolden extremists and incite violence against Jews in Israel. We urge global leaders to unequivocally reject the ICC's wrong and dangerous decision. Remember when I said they got no motion? This is what I mean. All they can do is fucking chirp, okay? All they can do is chirp about this kind of shit and cry about it. The only motion they got, the only motion they got is when they're fucking complaining that, some content creators said Sabra hummus is shitty. The grossest anti-Semitic crime of all. Press Sec just spoke. We'll do it again. Hold on. We'll get to it. Don't worry.
It means that we as Jews and the state of Israel has no right to defend themselves against all these attacks and evil things that are being done against us, and they are defending us.
Would we provide the same cover for other American allies, or is this an only Israel thing? No, we would provide the same cover for America's allies. I mean, depending on if they're still within the framework of allegiance. Like, we've cast aside former fascists in the past, using them and then just like throwing them into the wind. But if some shit like this happened to Saudi Arabia, I think America would defend them. Not Saudi Arabia. No, I think America would defend Saudi Arabia. I think America would defend NATO nation Turkey as well. We did do that. We offered political cover and weapons to Saudi Arabia to do a leave America stupid Iranina terrorist. All right, well, for that chatter, we got to do it again. Oh. Anyway, is this on Apple Music, dead ass? I think it's on a bunch of different platforms on YouTube, but the distributors themselves pulled it off of Spotify, and Israel did do a pressure campaign. Not only did Israel steal the song and recreate it to make it pro-Israel because it's an absolute banger, but they also actively tried to get the song removed from all of the platforms, claiming it's anti-Semitic. It's not, by the way. It's fucking not. Okay. It was taken off of Spotify. I think Spotify revealed that it was actually the distributor that took it off, but then I believe it's back on. It's Mohammed Asaf is the name of the artist, and the song is called Dammi Falastini. Yeah, that's the song. Yeah.
Against that.
Even if support around Netanyahu is rallying now, some say the arrest warrant will damage him politically.
I think there will be a shift from defending what they say, the Prime Minister, what he represents as the most powerful position in Israel politics, into a little bit of soul-searching about how Israel got to this point.
Israel's assault on Gaza is continuing. In the north, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been forced to flee amidst fears they'll never be allowed to return. Overnight, dozens were killed in strikes across Gaza.
Children again, by the way. Israel, by the way, while we were having this conversation, Israel has been murdering children at a rapid clip in North Gaza. Just so you understand, like, the situation is still dire and only getting worse, especially in North Gaza. Israel has already revealed its ambitions of permanently occupying it through military force. And they're building roads to the former Israeli settlements that existed in the Gaza Strip already. So that's the other side of the story, obviously, that, like, while this is a little bit, this is a moment of happiness, okay? Just remind yourselves, what the wrongdoings of Israel look like, okay, and how severe they are.
Here, the funerals of 3 children in the southern city of Khan Yunis. What impact, if any, will today's arrest warrant?
They're still killing. They're still killing people in southern Gaza as well.
Have on international efforts to finally reach a ceasefire.
Well, earlier I spoke to Jeffrey Robertson, Casey, a leading human rights lawyer who has been a UN war crimes judge. I began by asking how historic these arrest warrants are.
Well, we've had Kenyan leaders issued with warrants.
Remember Karim Khan famously saying that, he had a conversation with an American congressperson who directly told him, the ICC's jurisdiction is not for Western leaders. The ICC is there so you arrest African warlords and thugs like Putin. You know, it's not. You're not supposed to get our guys. It was Lindsey Graham most likely.
Turned up. They were given bail, and they fought the case through lawyers. It never got to trial. Mm-hmm. But so there are precedents, but never perhaps a leader that is so blindly backed by America, mm-hmm. which is not a member of the court, but will bring pressure upon it. And we just hope that the judges are independent enough, and they've shown independence by issuing this arrest warrant today.
What the Israelis will say, I'm sure, and they have an answer for themselves, obviously, is that the civilians who died in the Gaza Strip, and they would obviously dispute the numbers of civilians that have been killed, died either because they were used as human shields by Hamas or because they were, they got in the way. It was an unfortunate so-called collateral damage of the conflict, that dreadful term. But that they did not go out of their way to target these individuals.
Well, the prosecutor will say damage is not collateral if it's directly aimed. Mm-hmm. And so That's the answer to that.
What's the procedure now for the ICC?
The procedure is that the case goes to the next stage, and Mr. Khan, or whoever it is, will seek an indictment. Mr. Netanyahu can, I think he'd be allowed to send lawyers to the court to oppose that, although it's not necessary. The important thing to remember is that the ICC does not have the power to try him in absentia, no matter how strong the
So you
evidence.
need to actually arrest him in order to put him on trial, put him in the dock.
They need to put him in the dock.
Now, is that going to be likely?
First of all, Netanyahu himself may stay away. The downside for that is there are 124 countries signed up to the ICC, so he won't be able to travel very far.
But enforcement is voluntary, isn't it? So a country could choose not to arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu without warrant.
They'd have to leave the ICC. South Africa tried this with the head of Sudan, who was indicted, and the court ruled that it couldn't. So this is one of its
So what's the
obligations.
sanction? The sanction is to expel that country from the ICC?
Yes, which most countries don't want to be expelled. They will
Is America leaving the ICC? America's never been a part of it.
do what was done with Putin in that other conference last year.
Why did it take the ICC this long? Brother or sister or envy? The former ICC prosecutor that actually launched a case against Israel for apartheid and other war crimes literally was endlessly harassed by Mossad and actively surveilled. Her phones were tapped. And Benjamin Netanyahu went to the United States of America and got Donald Trump to issue direct sanctions on her. Okay? And in the process of Karim Khan opening up that or continuing along with the investigation of the former ICC prosecutor Bensouda, they literally never stopped threatening him. Okay? They have been threatening him nonstop. They probably threatened the judges too. So, like I said, the well of depravity is deep, okay? It's not, you can't get away with, criticizing Israel, especially from an international organ of justice, okay? You can't do that. That's not allowed. Not allowed. And for the record, when you go, I don't really understand. Why did it take so long? I mean, dude, look at what the American leadership is saying currently about the warrants, that they sent multiple letters with the congressional letterhead saying if the ICC takes this decision and actually files the warrants for arresting Benjamin Netanyahu, we will literally take military action. They have said that they're going to take military action. It is in the law. It is in the law. It is in the books. We have a law called the Hague Invasion Act, known colloquially as the Hague Invasion Act. Okay? Since, I believe, 2002, if I'm not mistaken, where if any American ally or any American service member is ever prosecuted by the ICC, America will invade the Hague. They will invade the Netherlands. Okay? It is a overt declaration of war. Now, you might be wondering, like, well, 2002, that's a weird time to write a law like that and put it in the books. I wonder why. There is a law that we passed in Congress that dictates that if an American citizen, if any kind of American service member, active duty, or vice versa, is ever brought up to the International Criminal Court, if they are extradited to the International Criminal Court, the U.S. Hague Invasion Act will kick in. You heard that right. We will invade the Hague. This is another one of my, there's a couple things that I talk about that like basically break people's brains. This is another one of them. When I talk about 32 states making it illegal to criticize Israel and still retain a job, everyone's like, what? That seems insane. Another one is obviously the massive amounts of money that the Defense Department cannot account for in the trillions. Okay. That also always breaks people's brains. And this is the last one. Whenever people say, America bat us on, exactly how? I tell them, we have a law in the books after our war on terror started, post 9/11, that because we knew we were going to do an unimaginable metric ton of fucking war crimes. If the ICC ever decided to, you know, do its job and play its role and actively try and prosecute any war criminals that are of American descent or working at the behest of the United States of America, that we will fucking invade them. Okay? That's not good guy shit. That's bad guy shit. That is not good guy shit. Okay? I'm sorry. U.S. President George Bush today signed into law the American Service Members Protection Act. That's what that's what it was called, which is intended to intimidate countries that ratify the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The new law authorizes the use of military force to liberate any American or citizen of a U.S. allied country being held by the court, which is located in The Hague. This provision, dubbed the Hague Invasion Clause, has a strong reaction from U.S. allies around the world, particularly in the Netherlands. This is real. This is still in action. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you can't really prosecute American war crimes in the International Criminal Court. Oh, this was pretty funny too. Of course, this pairs along nicely with this. Pentagon blocks sharing evidence of possible Russian war crimes with the Hague Court. I wonder why. Perhaps because it would set a bad precedent. And then lastly, International Criminal Court officials sanctioned by the United States. This was back in the 2nd of September 2020, the U.S. court has imposed sanctions on senior officials in the International Criminal Court, including Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused the court of illegitimate attempts to subject Americans to his jurisdiction. How wonderful that this related. Iraq amputee, I can hug my son with my feet. Related to this, okay? All of this is somehow related to one another, I suspect. I haven't even read the article, but, you know, wonder how that happened to that guy. But yeah, the U.S. has criticized the court since its foundation and is one of a dozen states which have not signed up. Balkis Jarrah, a senior counsel of the non-governmental organization Human Rights Watch, condemned the sanctions as a shameful new low for U.S. commitments to justice for victims of the worst crimes. Once again, you know, the Geneva Suggestion, not the Geneva Convention, or any matter of international law is merely just a weapon against America's foreign adversaries. That's it. That is it. There are no... Damn, bro. People say, HasanAbi, you've changed. It's like, motherfucker, I haven't changed. You did, bitch. There's literally, go back in time and listen to me talk about any number of different things that America has done to serve its own capital interests. I have always been a long-standing critic of American imperialism, Western chauvinism, American exceptionalism. That's why it's so funny when motherfuckers are like, bro, you've changed, dude. No, I have not changed, okay? You watched a couple fucking drama pervert videos, and because you were hopped up on American exceptionalist fumes to begin with, and that's an understandable starting position for you, and you refused to interrogate how you arrived at these positions, and possibly out of fear that, you know, a Chinese century of dominance would be terrifying, okay, decided to lean into American exceptionalism and Western chauvinism and American imperialism being a force for good. That's it. That's it. Yeah, the only thing that changed from back then is I'm no longer wearing Teddy Fresh shit. No rules for America. Only rules for who America has declared their enemies.
They simply warned him. He was in South Africa. South Africa warned him not to come. And he didn't. And Netanyahu would be given the same warning.
So his world has shrunk considerably.
It has, and he would be seen as an international fugitive.
Finally, and very briefly, Jeffrey Robertson, how likely from your experience, and given who else has turned up in the dock when people said it was impossible, how likely do you think it is that he and the other people who've been issued with this warrant will end up on trial?
Well, everyone said Milosevic, indict him. He'll never turn up. And yet his people handed him over. I think it is not impossible if he fell from power.
So the most likely people to hand him over would be the Israelis themselves, rather than him getting arrested on the streets of London or Paris.
It would be an easy way of disposing of him, were he to fail at the next elections, sent off to defend himself. But that's not likely. The likelihood is there'll be enormous American pressure to protect him, and we'll just have to wait and hope to see this court showing its independence. It's not anti-Semitic. That's an outrageous lie by Israel. There's nothing anti-Semitic about it. We can see on our television the war crimes every night as residential areas are bombed and children dug out of the rubble.
Jeffrey Ronson, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now is the Israeli diplomat and journalist Alan Pinkas. He's also served as an advisor to two former prime ministers, Ehud Barak and Shimon Peres. Alan Pinkas, good to speak to you again. What do you make of this arrest warrant then against Mr. Netanyahu and the former defense minister, Yoav Gallant?
Well, good to be with you, Matt. It was predictable. It was anticipated. It was expected.
It was fantastic.
The chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, requested.
It was also fantastic. Incredible stuff.
The warrants from the court in May. So that's 6 months ago. And it took time, but here we are. So on the one hand, it did not come as a surprise. On the other hand, you see by Israel's vociferous reaction that this hit a quite an exposed nerve. You put into this blender of Israeli responses anti-Semitism and the Holocaust and an international conspiracy and a cabal and terrorism and Iran, and you blend and everyone drinks out of the same concoction, and everyone comes out with basically the same righteous indignation. On the other hand, I just listened very carefully to the very.
He didn't say kebab. He said cabal.
Interesting interview you conducted with Jeffrey Robertson. He makes very, very important points. Mr. Netanyahu cannot be tried in absentia. He knows that. He will not test this. But then again, he, A, is a fugitive. B, as you said correctly, Matt, his world shrunk considerably.
Right. I mean, does Israel itself, and I know that Netanyahu has been incredibly unpopular, with lots of people for lots of other reasons, but the war itself has, as far as I can understand, been supported by the Israeli.
Yeah, it's funny that defenders of Israel or people who want to even talk about Israel in positive terms will so quickly just use the most classic anti-Semitic tropes, but against Israel's enemies. Yeah. Iran, the Iranian cabal taking over the world. The Iranian Illuminati are controlling the purse strings of society. Iran controls the media and all of the international organs of justice.
Public.
Iran owns all the banks.
Israel itself now feel as a pariah because its democratically elected leader has been issued with this arrest warrant.
Well, that's a complex question. Let me explain why. What's complex about it? On the one hand, people disapprove of Netanyahu. They see him as responsible and believe he should be held accountable for the calamity of October 7th. Yes, they were pro the war. No, they do not truly realize and understand what Israel did in Gaza. Some do and don't care. Some choose not to know, and some just don't know.
Right.
You have to understand the Israeli mindset, because there's a symbolic dimension to this and a practical dimension. The practical, I think, was covered way better than I can possibly do by Jeffrey Roberts in terms of the legality or the legal issues. But there's a symbolism here. Here's an Israel that believes it's on the moral high ground, that believes it has the most moral military in the world, that believes it is defending itself.
Right.
That you have to understand, the military, the Israeli military, is not some professional army. It's everyone.
Okay.
It's a people's.
But do you?
So people feel bad.
Right. But do you personally agree with the government in Tel Aviv that has said this is an anti-Semitic act? This arrest warrant is anti-Semitic.
No, I do not.
I mean, that is clearly what they're trying to do here.
Well, they're doing two things, Matt. First of all, Mr. Netanyahu, who suffers from a long time Louis XIV syndrome, identifying the state with himself and himself with the state, turns this into everyone's problem. We are being attacked by anti-Semites. We are the victims of a global conspiracy centered in The Hague, blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The second thing is that, look.
Mike from Pennsylvania, aka Central Committee, is right. This is a bad day for pieces of shit, okay? A real bad day. All the way from like those who are conducting genocide down to like fucking Twitch streamers, okay? And maybe even kick streamers, as a matter of fact. It's crazy. It's crazy how tides turn so fucking fast.
The prime minister of my country is accused of war crimes. There's no question in my mind that he will not stand up trial.
But just briefly, sorry to interrupt you because we've slightly run out of time, Alan. Just one final one, briefly.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible, as Jeffrey Robertson has suggested, that actually maybe the Israelis themselves might arrest him and hand him over to the ICC?
No.
Or is that never going to happen?
No, for a very practical reason. If the prime minister of your country is accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity, as is the defense minister, it inevitably entails that about 200 other brigadier generals, major generals, lieutenant generals, and even colonels will be accused of similar crimes. Right. No, I don't think that will happen.
So, Alan, we've run out of time. Alan Pincus, thank you very much.
One can only imagine.
Much indeed for joining us on such a complex issue. Matt. Thank you.
The anti-Semitic decision of the international
bitch, you ugly ass bitch.
National Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. 130 years ago, the French Jewish officer Alfred Dreyfus was falsely accused of treason by a biased French court. In response to these false accusations, the great French writer Émile Zola wrote his monumental essay, J'accuse. He accused the French court of anti-Semitic lies against an innocent officer who was later exonerated of all guilt. Now
it just sucks because, you can't go to France no more, bitch. You know? You can invoke Dreyfus, but you can't go to France anymore. No more fucking French countryside vacations for you, bitch. Pack watch. Oh, so good. It feels fucking good.
International Court in The Hague, also headed by a French judge, is repeating this outrageous offense.
Yeah, if Dreyfus was exonerated, why doesn't he go to The Hague to get exonerated? Yeah. Just take a trip. Take a trip to Paris. Land your plane on French soil. And then maybe take another trip to The Hague.
It is falsely accusing me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and Israel's former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, of deliberately targeting civilians.
Dude, if I'm Yoav Gallant, okay, well, one, I would, I would not be, because that would mean I'm a monstrous piece of shit. I would use this as an opportunity. You got fired. Maybe you take a trip. Maybe you take a trip to The Hague, okay? And then maybe, in order to get a lighter sentence, you say, listen, my bad about all the war crimes I did, all the children that I, murdered. I'll take 700 years in prison, but in return, as opposed to, 1,000 years in prison, and in return, I'll give you everything you want about Benjamin Netanyahu. Just saying. Could be cool. Could be a cool thing. What is this? Crazy how much this quote of you popped off on Twitter. Oh, yeah. I saw this. 105,000 likes. You want every single Palestinian to be fucking executed ruthlessly on the streets so you can build another fucking theme park on Gaza, you fucking baying pig. Netanyahu can still visit America, right? Yeah.
This when we do everything in our power to avoid civilian casualties. We issue millions of text messages, phone calls, leaflets to the citizens of Gaza to get them out of harm's way, while the Hamas terrorists do everything in their power to keep them in harm's way, including shooting them, using them as human shields. The court in The Hague accuses us of a deliberate policy of starvation. This when we've supplied Gaza with 700,000 tons of food to feed the people of Gaza. That's 3,200 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza.
That's fucking bullshit. You're a lying piece of shit. Literally, no one believes this. Even the American government doesn't believe it. Anyway, let's finish this.
And these supplies are routinely looted by Hamas terrorists who deprive their people of much needed food. Yet just in the last few weeks, Israel facilitated the vaccination of 97% of the people of Gaza against polio. This doesn't prevent the court of accusing us of genocide. What in God's name are they talking about in The Hague?
We give them polio vaccines and then we kill them. Like, this is a week out from aid trucks being allowed to enter. This is a week out from aid trucks being allowed to enter, only to then fucking turn around and lighting the school on fire. Bro, is worse at lying than content creators? Yeah, I mean, yeah. They also have allowed anti-Hamas militant groups within like actual fucking roving gangs. What is this? Philly D covered your Fox article during a stream on this morning. He simulcast on YouTube and Twitch, and it was crazy seeing the split in opinion of you based on the platform. Ethan has really radicalized a lot of people on YouTube against you. I think Philip DeFranco has a lot of lib fans because of the nature of his coverage. And it's normal that there are going to be people who read that and don't think about it beyond. Like, YouTube chat is always going to be gross anyway. But I think that it's more so just like, Philip DeFranco has a lot of libs in his community. Yeah, I think, I don't think it's Ethan. What is a lib to you? You throw this around often. A liberal is someone who is pro-capitalism, someone who at least is conciliatory to the demands being made by people who are progressive, but only as long as it is inoffensive, and will regularly trade away rights for marginalized people at the behest of maintaining a veneer of civility. Oftentimes a person who doesn't have real ideological boundaries, real interest in protecting. I think that for many people, the moment that they consider what a party that they're defending to be unconscionable, and the moment that they call out their own party, they move beyond liberalism. There are many more liberals out there than there are leftists, but I think that inside of the heart of a liberal, there is either a dormant fascist, and that's not the majority at all, or a dormant leftist. A liberal is a leftist that has not been awakened yet in many circumstances. Some people hold on to liberalism as this valid ideology. They trick themselves into believing that it has some sort of intellectual or some sort of moral compass, but in many instances, it's just simply defending hegemony. Depending on how much you would like to defend the current systems of oppression in the interest of maintaining civility and maintaining order, liberals can find themselves in the throes of fascist sentiment. I think Israel is a great example, right? Israel is a great example of this equation. If you see man-made horrors beyond human comprehension every single day, and you look away from it and you say to yourself, there's a good reason for this happening. And that is because Hamas did October 7, and they have an ancient anti-Semitic gene in their hearts. And that, unfortunately, some Palestinians are dying as a consequence of that, but that's just Hamas's fault. Then you might be a liberal who is a dormant fascist. If you see homeless people and you think to yourself, oh, these criminals, they must be thrown into prison immediately because they're grossing me out, rather than look at them and say, wow, these are victims of circumstance and they must get the help necessary. It is unconscionable that the wealthiest nation on earth has 600,000 plus homeless people sleeping outside every night. We must fix this broken system. Then you're not a liberal. You're a progressive.
The truth is simple. No war is more just than the war that Israel has been waging in Gaza after Hamas attacked us unprovoked, launching the worst massacre against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former Defense Minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state. These judges did nothing. They did nothing against the real war crimes committed against the millions who've been murdered or uprooted by the dictatorships in Iran, Syria, and Yemen. Instead, they falsely accused the one democracy in the Middle East, Israel, thereby imperiling the right of all democracies to defend themselves against murderous terrorists and tyrants. Nor did the court do anything against the Hamas terrorists who raped our women, beheaded our men, burned babies alive in front of their parents, and kidnapped hundreds of men, women, and children to the underground dungeons of Gaza. They're still holding 101 hostages, citizens of many lands, including the United States. Come to think of it, the court did issue one arrest warrant against Hamas. Now hear this. They issued an arrest warrant against the...
No, they issued multiple arrest warrants against Hamas. You just killed those guys. So the one remaining alive Hamas person also got issued an arrest warrant. Originally, the application for the arrest, it included more Hamas members. Problem is, you killed them.
The corpse of the Hamas arch-terrorist Mohammed Dev. His corpse. What an absurdity. No biased anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent the state of Israel from defending its citizens. And I want to thank our many friends around the world, especially those in the United States, who've condemned this outrage and who have said that this decision will have severe consequences for the ICC and those who cooperate with its decision.
Oh my God,
Israel will not recognize the validity of this decision. We will continue to do everything we must do to defend our citizens and defend our state against Iran's axis of terror, Iran and its terrorist proxies, which include Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others. Our enemies are your enemies, and our victory will be your victory, the victory of civilization over barbarism and tyranny.
The International Criminal Court has just issued...
Nazi bitch, suck my dick. Yeah, everyone is an anti-Semite, including all the Jewish people that participated in the prosecution of Benjamin Netanyahu and this war criminal tribunal and this war criminal prosecution. Everyone, including the Pope. The Pope is Hamas. It's just crazy. It's just crazy that, man, it's crazy that every single person that's always against Israel is just Hamas. It's wild. What a track record, dude. What a crazy track record. Wait, what do you mean mic is low as fuck? God damn, dude. Holy shit.